Well, good evening, everyone. Mark Meckler here with the Sunday Night BattleCry. You already knew that. That's why you're here. That's why I'm here. That's why we're here. It's been an incredible weekend in the Meckler household. Something special. I know it's like moving into Christmas week. Of course, that's special. But here's a really special thing. My daughter actually got engaged last night. My one and only daughter, Lucy, our pride and joy, got engaged last night to her longtime boyfriend, Clayton. So it was a big celebration. Went out to Fredericksburg, Texas. They did the big surprise thing. Nope, she didn't know it was coming. So at least she said yes. That's the good news. It was fantastic. We had a big celebration dinner. So we got a lot of reasons to celebrate this Christmas. One of them is the family is growing. So it's pretty cool stuff. And I know a lot of you guys have already experienced this. We're just kind of getting into that phase of life where the kids are out of the nest and they're going to start growing their own nest. So pretty exciting stuff for us. Here's another exciting thing. You like this shirt? It's pretty cool, isn't it? Socialism kills. It says socialism kills hopes, dreams, and freedom. I got my new Defender gear hat on. So I'm excited about this. There's a new company that I'm working with. You know, I've always worn a lot of grunt style stuff, nine line stuff. And I found this company. They got introduced to me by Rick Green. I started buying some of their stuff. I fell in love with their stuff. They've got cool stuff, some faith-based stuff, some kind of military-looking stuff. This is defender-gear.com. So if you like it, go support these guys. They're great patriots. No, I'm not getting paid to say that. Yeah, I did get some free t-shirts. I will tell you that. But I do it because I love these guys. I love what they stand for. I'm loving the gear. I got a whole bunch. You'll see me wearing them. I'm posting them on Instagram. I'll be wearing them here. This is my official Defender gear hat. And then one of the new shirts, like I said, I got a whole bunch of them. So you'll kind of see me rotating through these things. I needed a bunch of new ones. So these guys took good care of us here in the Meckler house. They have women's gear too. Really nice stuff. My daughter, my wife liked some of their stuff. My dad liked it. My son liked it. Okay. Defender-gear.com. So there you go. That's sort of a commercial, I guess. Anyway, let's move on so we got two pieces of good news, right? We got Lucy getting married. We got new Defender gear stuff. And then California potentially getting sane. Is that possible? I mean, you guys know I come from California. I live in Texas now. We had to escape the insanity. But there is a rising tide in California against Governor Newsom, against his hypocrisy, against his insane lockdowns. I would argue against the radical leftism of totalitarian control. Because right now, apparently, something like 840,000 people have already signed a recall petition against him. It looks like they might qualify the recall, which would be incredible. This would be the second time, I think, in the last 20, 25 years that a governor has been recalled. Gray Davis was recalled. A big part of it is because Newsom is one of the gubernatorial lockdown kings in the country. I mean, for whatever reason, frankly, it just seems like he gets off on it. I think it's a control thing. He likes to lock other people down. He likes to shut other people's businesses. By the way, he shut most of the wineries and wine tasting rooms in the state, but he owns one. He didn't shut his. It's so surprising, isn't it? Like everybody else gets shut down, not him. He said that you shouldn't go to restaurants if you live in California, and then he got busted at French Laundry, which is a wild thing. It's super expensive. Apparently, I've never been there. I can't afford it. Dinner starts at something like $300 a person. And apparently at this particular dinner, they spent upwards of $50,000. I think $15,000 on liquor and alcohol and wine alone. Incredible. And he was there in a room. He claimed afterwards when he apologized that they were kind of outdoors and it was open outdoor dining, a small party. Well, apparently there were more like 50 people in a room with all these big sliding glass doors open, and they were so loud that they had to shut the doors because the other patrons were complaining. And there's a picture of him sitting at the table, of course, no mask on. So this is the hypocrisy, not just of Governor Newsom. We saw this with Governor Gina Raimondo in New Hampshire, in Maine. It's incredible what's going on in all of these places. These governors are so hypocritical. I remember we had Mayor Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, Lori Lightweight, as we call her, and her hypocrisy. Of course, she had to get a haircut. She had to get a haircut. And by the way, she looks like, I don't know, she cuts her hair with a blender or something. I don't even know what it is. Seriously, it's not like it's very stylish or fashionable. Maybe she could just use a Marine Corps clippers or something. But she had to go out and get a haircut, but you weren't allowed to. And she said it was because she was had a public facing job, right? She was the face of the city of Chicago. And the hypocrisy is incredible. So it's coming home to roost in California now. A judge has ruled that they have until March to collect the signatures. They're about halfway there, apparently. I think this is going to gain steam because Newsom keeps locking down and locking down and locking down. He's not locked down, but you're locked down if you live in California. If you haven't signed that petition, I would do it if I lived there. I'd sign it multiple times. Of course, you're not allowed to do that. I'm not actually suggesting you do that, but you should help circulate it. I would help circulate it if I was there. So I think there's a decent chance that they're going to recall Governor Newsom. I think that's incredible sanity in California. The guy that's apparently running it, former, I think he's LA County Sheriff, former sheriff anyway, or sheriff's deputy running this effort. Incredible stuff, important stuff. People will only take so much, and I'm glad to see people in California finally revolting, because California's government is revolting. So maybe, you know what I'm saying. If the people will revolt, that would be a great thing. All right, speaking of something that's actually revolting, it's Joe Biden's press conferences. I hesitate to even call them press conferences because he is so unresponsive to the press. None of these things are live, by the way. I mean, they're not in front of an audience, or the press isn't with him, not even appropriately socially distanced, not even masked. That's not what he does. They're Zoom press conferences. He's doing them once a week, and the reporters actually have to submit in advance that they want to ask a question, and very, very few reporters have been allowed to ask a question. And so you've got Peter Ducey there for Fox News, and he's been allowed to ask no questions. Nope, none, zero, zip, none. Of course not, because he's not friendly. He's not actually part of the administration. Like CNN's been allowed to ask questions, and other news agencies, quote unquote, like that, have been allowed to ask questions because they're really just sort of the press team or the PR team. You know how many questions there have been about the Hunter Biden scandal, which is now just widely broken out into the open? Actually, I'm proud to say some of the media is reporting on it. The number of questions been asked at Biden's press conferences about Hunter Biden, none, zero. Not allowed to ask those questions. Actually not allowed to ask Joe Biden any real questions, anything tough, anything that any other presidential candidate would be asked. He's not allowed to be asked. No tough questions about nominees that he says he's going to nominate to be part of his cabinet if he becomes the president of the United States. None of that. It's these antiseptic, sterile, staged press conferences. It reminds me of the Soviet Union way back when Pravda was the only news agency and everything was staged. It looks exactly like that. It seems exactly like that. It's actually even weirder because everything's done digitally, right? Nobody's in person. There's no spontaneity. It's just strange stuff. And we're living through a time where our media, the mainstream media, the quote unquote news media, there's really now no news media on the left side of the aisle. They're all just working in service of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And speaking of Kamala Harris, can you see her licking her chops in the back? I mean, she knows old Uncle Joe ain't going to make it long if he gets inaugurated as president. Then she's just there in waiting to be the next president if he's inaugurated. So I think it's weird to watch. I think we're going to see this all the way through. If Joe Biden takes the presidency, if he ends up in the White House, if he's inaugurated on January 20th, all ifs still at this point. I think it's important we acknowledge that. If that happens, I think you're going to see a compliant media the whole way through, although some in the media are starting to get frustrated. They don't like that they're not able to ask questions. They don't like that there aren't live press briefings. They don't like that they're not allowed to participate. So you are seeing a little bit of frustration. It'll be interesting to see if any of that breaks out. I doubt it, because I think if anybody actually does break out with that stuff, they're going to get in big trouble. I mean, they're going to be shut down by the rest of the media is what's going to happen. All right, so another question facing us right now is not, will Joe Biden answer questions from the media? Because we know the answer to that one is no. The question is, will the president, and by the president, I mean President Trump, use an executive order or martial law or some other kind of sort of extreme presidential remedy to stay in office? Now, I have an opinion about this, but I want to be really clear about this. You know what they say about opinions, right? I don't need to go into all the euphemisms, but mine is no more valuable than anybody else's. And my opinion is, generally speaking, no. I don't think there's going to be some extraordinary measure taken by the president. I look, I think he's been a great president. I've been a supporter at a personal level. I've liked the policies of this president. I would like to see him continue in office. Personally, I don't think there's going to be martial law. I don't think he's going to use some executive order power that he might have. I don't think he's going to act unilaterally to retain office. That's not to say that when it goes to the actual vote of the electors January 6th, that there isn't going to be fireworks. I think there is going to be fireworks with multiple states that where the Republican slate of electors have now voted to present those votes in Congress. You have congressmen saying that they're going to object to certain slates of electors. I think this stuff's going to break out into the open. I think it's going to be a wild day, January 6th. I think whatever happens, I think it's really important that you watch, that I watch. I think this is going to be a historic day. Your kids should be watching if they're old enough to understand it, because what we're going to be watching is we're going to be watching the constitutional process play out. And I have no problem with this fight taking place. I think the president and his team and everybody related to him and anybody who's a conservative had every right and has every right to go to the courts for every remedy, to play this out in the court of public opinion, and to work their way through the entire process. By the entire process, I mean, it's not over yet, right? I think every day that goes by, people get mad at me when I say this, but it's just a fact. Every day that goes by, it's less and less likely that the president can overcome the obstacles and still find a path to retain the White House. Now, I'll have people, trust me, who will write to me and they'll be really angry that I just said that. But I live in a world that's bounded by reality. This is not about what I wish. I'm not going to wish cast and say that I wish that the president was going to retain office. I'm looking and trying to do my opinion, just opinion, a realistic analysis of what I think is going to happen. And right now, my realistic analysis says it looks rough for the president. The path is incredibly narrow. There are potentially some opportunities along the way. We could see some bombshell evidence break loose that blows the whole thing wide open. You could see some weird stuff happen when the electors are presented in Congress. But right now, for me, my general opinion is it doesn't look great for the president. All right. So do I worry about that? Of course I worry about that. I'm personally, on a very personal level, I don't like the idea of a Harris-Biden administration. And by the way, I say that not, I don't want to say with all due respect, because I don't have respect for these people as political actors. I think they're vile. I think Joe Biden's one of the most vacuous, dishonest people ever to run for office. I think he's doing it for himself, not for the country. And so I won't say with all due respect. I will say with all due lack of respect, I think Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are vile. That's just my personal opinion. I think she is a radical leftist. I think, again, she's a person with no core other than a rotten core. If Biden ends up being our president, if that actually happens, Kamala Harris is going to be president. He's not going to make it 4 years. Anybody who thinks he's going to make it 4 years, if you can honestly look at him and watch him and see how he behaves, and you think he's going to make it 4 years, well, I just think you're being dishonest or you're stupid. I mean, those are the two potential options. The guy is losing it. He can barely string sentences together. He can sometimes read off of a teleprompter. But if you just look at him now versus a few years ago, he is greatly declined. And so I think that means at some point soon you end up with the Harris presidency. And that's if they take the president and the vice presidency. Again, I'm going to keep saying if. And if they do, so I think it's bad for the country. That's my personal opinion. I don't think it's over. This is one of the things I keep hearing that really frustrates me. I get people who text me. I've told you this. I get the texts all day long. People telling me, hysteria, chaos, craziness. It's all over for the Republic if Harris and Biden take office. And my answer to that is stop your whining. Really. And the reason I say that is because I'm not going to quit. And if you want to tell me how it's all over, if you actually believe it's all over, if Joe Biden is inaugurated as president, well, then you should quit once he's inaugurated. Then you're a quitter and you're going to give up the fight for the country. Then you're not going to fight for the country for your kids and your grandkids and our posterity. Then you're a quitter. And I'm not really interested in that. And I don't really want to hear from you, to be honest with you, because I don't think it's all over. From my perspective, God has a plan, however it unfolds. I don't know what that plan is, but my job is not to quit. Your job's not to quit. Our job together collectively, in my opinion, is to fight like zealots for liberty, for what's right, for our core freedoms, for the rights with which we are endowed by our Creator. Are you really going to roll over that easily and show your belly to evil, to bad people, to the destruction of the republic? Oh, the wrong guy got elected. And so now I'm just going to give up my rights that I was endowed with by the Creator. I'm not going to fight for those anymore. I don't come from that place. I don't understand people who act like they're going to give up. And by the way, I say this to people sometimes. Well, look, if you're going to give up, go ahead, give up. I just don't want to hear from you. And they get very offended with me. They're, oh, I don't, how dare you say I'm going to quit? And I said, I don't say you're going to quit. You just said you were going to quit. You just told me it's all over. Well, if it's all over, why would you fight? If you believe there is literally zero chance to save the republic, why would you fight? You are quitting. So, don't kid yourself, or don't use this stupid hyperbole of saying it's all over. It's not all over. The country's been through really bad things many times. Lots of people saw a lot of dark days, might have believed that things were going to be very difficult, but they were willing to fight their way through. And I think that we have to stand up to that. We have to be willing to fight our way through dark days. So, whatever happens, if Donald Trump stays in the White House, that's good. We're still going to have to fight, by the way. If Biden and Harris, or the Harris administration, ends up in the White House, I don't think that's good. That's me personally. We're still going to have to fight. Either way, we're going to be in the fight for liberty. I'm counting on you to be in the fight for liberty. I'm going to be in the fight for liberty. My family's in the fight for liberty. My son is in the fight for liberty. You guys know my daughter, my son. You've heard me talk about them. My son's at Scalia Law, training up to be a constitutional warrior. My daughter's doing education reform policy. She's a conservative warrior. My wife's in the fight with me. A lot of you guys know Patty. She's a warrior. My folks who are still alive in their 80s, still fighting the fight, right? Still engaged in politics. They're warriors. They're not giving up. So we can't give up. All right. So let's keep our chins up, because why? Socialism kills. So it's up to us to fight back against it. The next big fight coming up is the Georgia runoff. Don't forget about this. I think every upstanding American who believes in liberty, who believes in the Constitution, who believes in the rule of law, who believes in standing up and saluting the flag, who believes that socialism kills, every good American needs to be engaged in that fight in Georgia. This is, by the way, an incredible opportunity. This Georgia race is nationalized. That means you can participate. If it's $5 to one of the candidates that you support, give that $5. If it's making calls, get with an organization, join conventionofstates.com, volunteer, and then volunteer to make calls. We're doing Get Out the Vote, because we got to make sure that anybody who thinks like us, thinks like you, thinks like me, is anti-socialism, is pro the free market, is pro liberty, is pro people, needs to be engaged in that race. So don't forget about it. Just because we're going into Christmas, just because we're going into New Year's, that race is going to take place on January 5th, no matter what. And you need to be engaged. I'm going to be engaged. We did a call with Robert Cahaley this week, Trafalgar Group polling, and the polls are moving in the right direction. This is not a given now, but you have right now Purdue, last we looked, is up about 2 points. And you have Kelly Loeffler up about 4.5 points. That's what it's looking like right now. That's how the polls are moving. But man, every day matters. And so don't sit back and think this thing's just going to happen without you. I hate it when people are like, well, what could I do? I'm not really necessary. I don't have that much money, or I do what you can do. Everybody does their part. That's how we save the nation. That's how it works. Whether it's the Georgia Senate runoff, whether it's what we do in politics next year and the year beyond, it's each of us doing something. That's what self-governance is all about, right? And that's what we're about. All right, I'm going to move over to the Chinese flu headlines, because they are bad, worse, and bad, because this is what the media wants us to think about this, right? Everything's bad, everything's horrible, everything's terrible. And I don't even have to read the stories. You got to just hear the headlines. So a lot of these are from Bongino Report. I don't hope you guys aren't using Drudge Report anymore. Certainly not CNN or anything like that. Bongino Report's where I go to kind of get the top line headlines. So listen to these headlines. Now, they're not writing the headlines. In other words, this is not the perspective of Bongino This or the Bongino report. This is a perspective all the media outlets are reporting from. California sees record coronavirus cases and deaths despite strict lockdown. Okay, so this is important, super important. They're locked down and they're still seeing a spike in cases. By the way, we're seeing less of a spike here in Texas and we're not locked down. Way more transmission in home among families who stay at home together all the time than they're in. People are, by the way, having friends over and extended family over than there are in a restaurant. There's like very low risk in a restaurant, but now the restaurants are closed down. Outdoor dining is closed down. So you're seeing surges in places where there's a full lockdown. LA County has now conceded people must be allowed to worship inside churches. Wow. The First Amendment exists in LA County, in California. Incredible. Amazing. They didn't know that, right? Courts are actually now doing a pretty good job on allowing people, which I don't think we should be allowed. I think we just have that right. We're endowed by that right, but allowing people to worship in houses of worship. Feds launch probe to address early allergic reactions to vaccine. Oh, no, it's perfectly safe. Nobody has to worry. Remember, they're going to make a big deal out of it. You have to take the vaccine no matter what. Hey, look, that's a personal choice. People are having allergic reactions. There was a nurse that fainted on camera this week, or somebody else had an anaphylactic reaction. Just be cautious. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying don't take the vaccine. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably not going to take the vaccine. Relatively young, healthy. I'm not high at risk. I think if you're in your 80s, you might want to take the vaccine. If you're not at risk, not so much. All right, here's another one. Tulsi Gabbard introduces a bill to fund small businesses at the expense of pandemic winners. I think this is awesome. Right. So who's the big winner? What businesses are the big winners? Costco, Walmart. They never got shut down. Right. Amazon, these gigantic retailers. These are the big winners. So she's saying tax them, give it to the small business that government's killing. Tulsi Gabbard, by the way, very dangerous Democrat. When I say a dangerous Democrat, she does believe in a lot of leftist policies, but she's also pro-military. She's very articulate, comes across as very reasonable. And so I think a lot of Republicans actually like her. That makes her dangerous. When I say dangerous, I don't mean she's personally dangerous to us. I mean, as a candidate running against Republicans, she would be potentially dangerous. But that's a good idea. Biden's open border policy will pose grave health risks during a pandemic. You think? Yeah, he's going to reopen the border. He's going to let people pour across. Infection rates are much higher in Mexico. Obviously, sanitation systems, healthcare systems, not as good in Mexico and in South America. He opens the border. You're going to see cases increase. That's just the way it is. Here's a great one. Overdose deaths outnumber coronavirus deaths in San Francisco. Yeah, see, this is what happens when you lock people in their homes, when you let drug offenders out of jail over and over, when you have drugs running rampant on your streets, when depression is running rampant and drug abuse is running rampant because people are locked down, losing their jobs. Overdose deaths more than coronavirus deaths. They don't care. They don't care about people. Joe Biden to receive coronavirus vaccine on Monday. Of course he is. Of course he is, because he's privileged and elite and you're not. Go Uncle Joe. Europe tightens restrictions ahead of Christmas. This is good because we got to cancel Christmas, right? They told us to cancel Thanksgiving. There was going to be this huge spike after Thanksgiving. People traveled. A lot of people traveled. No spike. Not anything statistically significant. But now they're going to lock you down for Christmas. Like, you should open your presents by yourself. You should be very scared. Don't be scared. Get together with your family. Celebrate Christmas. Be reasonable. Be rational. Don't be crazy dangerous, but definitely celebrate Christmas. Don't listen to these government officials. Here's another great one. New York restaurants banned Governor Cuomo. There's a bunch of restaurants that, it's just symbolic, of course, but they banned Governor Cuomo from their restaurants. I freaking love that. Like, Governor Cuomo, one of the worst governors in America. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to go to a little bit of Q&A, a little bit of commentary from you guys, because that's my favorite part. John Underwood says, our country's under attack. What's the solution? Convention of States is the solution. Take the power away from the federal government, give it back to the states. Are the states good? Are they great? No. It's where we have more power. The solution really is for you and me to resist. Is literally to resist, to say, no, I won't wear a mask. No, I'm going to go about and live my life. I'm not going to lock myself in my house. I'm not going to be locked down until we start to see mass resistance. And we are starting to see it. They're going to practice tyranny. Melinda Hahn wants to know, where can I get that shirt? Defender-gear.com. Defender-gear.com. Love these guys, Joe Markowitz and the team over there. Really great patriots. They've got a lot of great stuff, and they got it in men's and women's styles and sizes, and really good stuff. Defender-gear.com. Thanks for asking, Melinda. Tammy Buttry says, how can any American take this election seriously? Well, I mean, I think we should take it seriously, really seriously, because it's really bad what happened. How can we believe the results? I don't think we can. I mean, that's my opinion. Again, that's one man's opinion. I think it's the opinion of a lot of people. I think the question is, other than whatever happens on January 6th with the electors, what can we do about it? And the answer really is, in every state with a Republican legislature, you have to demand that is a top priority of your legislators to lock down the legislative system, not lock down against coronavirus, lock down their electoral system. You do it by cleaning your voter rolls, getting the dead people off there, getting the illegal people off there, getting people who've moved out of the state off of there. You get rid of mail-in voting. You get rid of same-day registration. You tighten up all the restrictions. You require voter ID. I would say that's the minimum package. That's what every Republican legislature has to pass. The Democrats aren't going to pass that because it seems like they like the cheating, but every Republican legislature should. And let's not forget Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Georgia, all of these states, Republicans in both houses of the legislature, they should have done this stuff a long time ago. They actually are part of the reason that we're where we're at. Byron Griffith says, can Pence deny electoral votes in disputed states? You know, Byron, I think that's a question that's up in the air. Some people argue that Vice President Pence, who is the president of the Senate, that's the way our system works, that he has absolute discretion. Will Pence do that? I find that hard to believe. And look, I like Mike Pence. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a moral and ethical guy. I also remember when they had the bathroom bill in Indiana and he was governor, and he folded so fast, like a cheap tent in a breeze. And so I don't think that, I'm just going to say it openly, I don't think he has the fortitude to stand up there and not count those votes. So I think he probably has the authority to make that decision, but really nobody can say. That's kind of up in the air, I would say, from as a legal matter. Mark Harrison wants to know what's up with Kansas and the COS effort. The answer is it looks really great in Kansas coming year. If you're not involved, Mark, make sure you get involved. We have a 2/3 majority in both houses. That's very strong, and we think we're going to get there. I think we're going to get across the line. Kansas could be one of the first states in 2021, so make sure you get involved. Alex Gallimore says, are you traveling soon? Right now, I don't have anything on the calendar, believe it or not. I think maybe the first will be Idaho, early January, somewhere probably around the 4th. I think that's probably the first place I'm going to go. I love going to Idaho. There's some crazy people in opposition there. Excuse me. We always have a good time. Great lobbyists there, great patriots that run the effort there, great leadership team, Janice Helpman and the rest of the team. So I think that's going to be the first place I go. All right, I'm going to close with this. We're about out of time, but I just want to close with a Christmas message for you guys. So when I think about Christmas, when I think about what our Lord and Savior did for us, which is what Christmas is about, giving his one and only son to become a man, to come to earth, to suffer like a man, to live among men, to die like a man, so that we might be cleansed of our sins. That's incredible. That is the story. It is the most incredible story in human history. And today when I was in church, we were talking about, the pastor was talking about peace on earth and goodwill towards men, this idea, right, of peace on earth. And the question is, what does that mean? And have we ever really had peace on earth and goodwill towards men? Has there ever been a time in human history, recorded human history, when that existed? And the answer is really no. And so it kind of leads to the question of, well, then where's God, right? What's going on? How is God working on earth? And pastor, that's not original to me. I'm going to credit our pastor. He did a great job, Pastor Tim, at our church this morning. And he said, peace on earth means between you and your Savior, between you and your God. That's what he's talking about. You're on earth. You have a relationship with the Lord. You can have that peace on earth, that internal peace that surpasses all understanding, that you can only get from God. That's peace on earth. Doesn't mean there's no war. Doesn't mean there's no strife. It doesn't mean there's no evil. It means you can have this gift that you've been given in your heart, right? In your mind, you can have that peace that only comes from that relationship. So as you guys head with your families towards Christmas, I hope you think about what the meaning of the season is, because I think that's important. We've commercialized Christmas. And by the way, I love that part. I love giving gifts to my family. We definitely spoil the family. But let's remember the real meaning of the season. Let's take care of others. This is something we believe in at Convention of States. Let's serve other people. That might mean opening your home to people who are not part of your immediate family, to bring other people into your Christmas. If you have a blessed Christmas, if you have a blessed family, there are those that are less blessed than you. This is a great time of year to reach out and to let people know about the message of peace on earth and to serve them in the way that we were intended to serve. It is truly my honor and pleasure every week on the BattleCry, hopefully to serve you, but also to serve you as one of the leaders of the Convention of States movement. We are a service organization. We believe in serving God, serving each other, serving the mission, serving the grassroots, and serving our country. I hope you feel the same way. We're going to take next week off after Christmas, chill out with the family. We'll be back the following week. And I think that brings us back right before New Year's. So we will see you on the next edition of the BattleCry. Merry Christmas.